learners, you are welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. My name is Emmanuel Shion, and I will be taking you history. So today, we'll be looking at a very sensitive and important topic, which is British colonial political administration in Nigeria. I will implore you to listen attentively because this particular topic, most of the time, comes out in WAEC and NECO external examination. So, you agree with me that Britain as a country colonized Nigeria. And also, when we are talking about colonial administration, anything that has to do with administration, you also agree with me that no country or no state or no organization can run without a particular system of government. We have diverse system of government, but a particular one that the British colonialists used was indirect rule. At the end of today's lesson, students will 1. Define the concept indirect rule. 2. State the features of indirect rule in Nigeria. 3. Students will explain the reasons for the introduction of indirect rule in Nigeria. And lastly, we'll be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of indirect rule in Nigeria. Also have it in mind that advantages and disadvantages also means merits and demerits. What is indirect rule? Indirect rule system is a system of government used by the British colonialists to rule over the people, to rule over their colonies through the use of the traditional rulers. The traditional rulers is very significant. In fact, we can say that the success of indirect rule system in Nigeria was solely on the traditional rulers who acted as an intermediary. This simply means that the colonialists, they talk to the traditional rulers, and the traditional rulers pass down any decision being made by the colonialists. That was why I said they serve as what? Intermediary in between the colonialists and the people. This indirect rule system was introduced by the then Governor General, which is known as Lord Frederick Lugard. Okay, going forward, we'll be looking at the features of indirect rule system in Nigeria. If you look at the definition of indirect rule, you will see that this system has to do more with the traditional rulers. So, traditional rulers is the first features. The indirect rule system relied solely on the traditional rulers. Also, the traditional rulers, they have some degree of autonomy. They were autonomous in some of the things they do. 2. Native authorities. There are some native authorities that are being put in place that will carry out the instructions being laid down by the British colonialists. Also, under the native authority, we have examples of the native authority like the Warren chiefs. For example, in the East, the Warren chiefs were the ones who were in charge of collection of tax. So this native authority, those who collect tax, those who collect fines, and so on and so forth. Also, governor. The Governor General is also a significant feature. As at the time when indirect rule system was introduced, Lord Frederick Lugard was the Governor General. So the Governor General has the highest political figure. He is the highest political figure that makes the final decision in the indirect rule system. Also, native treasury. The British ensure that they made a native treasury where taxes, fines are being paid into. Also, there is the native court. This court is where justice are being administered. So I believe you are following me. Also, we'll look at the reasons. You will agree with me that there's reason for everything. There are some certain reasons that led to the introduction of indirect rule system in Nigeria. One is the cheap nature of indirect rule system. Indirect rule system is very cheap. Cheap in the sense that the British colonialists, they do not have to pay. You will agree with me that if the colonialists had to bring in experts or bring in people from their country to serve in the political administration, it will cost them more money because they will have to pay them either wages or salary. But the traditional rulers are not being paid. So it's a very cheap nature of administration. Two is language difficulty. When the British officials, when they came to West Africa and Nigeria to be precise, as at that time, Nigeria is a region that encompasses different ethnic groups. We have the Yoruba people, Igbo, Hausas, Kanuris, Fulani, and so on and so forth. These tribes, they have different language. The colonialists, they found it very difficult to communicate with the people. So that was part of the reason why Lord Lugard now thought of it, that yes, we can actually make use of the traditional rulers, which as at that point, most of the traditional rulers were educated to some certain extent. Also, lack of British personnel. There were not enough British personnel on ground. There were only limited number of people that were sent from Great Britain down to Nigeria. That was why Lord Lugard now thought of it that he should make use of some of the native authorities that we have on ground. If you may recall, before the arrival of the colonialists, we have some authorities being put in place before their arrival. That is during the pre-colonial era. So the colonialists also tried as much as possible to also involve them. Also, success in other countries. The indirect rule system has been tried, have been used in some other countries like Uganda, like Ghana, including India. So, and it was successful. So, Frederick Lugard now thought of it that he should also bring it into the region known as Nigeria. And also participation by local authority. The British colonialists, they knew that there will be lots of rebel from the indigenous people. And they know that the people will always listen to their traditional rulers because they hold their traditional rulers in high esteem. That was why the colonialists tried as much as possible to involve the local authorities to ensure that they participate in order for them to have a good cooperation with the people. Also, advantages. The indirect rule system has advantages and disadvantages. Start with the advantages. What are the good sides of the indirect rule system? Number one is that it is cost effective. Unlike some other system of government, like democratic system of government, for example, it's not cost effective. But indirect rule is very cheap. Like I said earlier, the British colonialists, they do not have to start paying a lot of money to pay workers that will serve in the administrative affairs. Two, cultural preservation. The British colonialists, they try as much as possible to preserve the culture of the people. Unlike the French colonialists, in their colony, at first, they made use of the policy of direct rule. or assimilation, whereby they try to impose their culture on the people. But in the context of Nigeria, the colonialists, the British colonialists, did not impose their culture on us. What they did was that they tried to preserve our culture by even making use of our native rulers and authority. Also, elimination of bad traditional institutions. Before their arrival, there are some inhuman and barbaric acts, such as sacrifice, rituals, and some other practices. When they arrived, they ensured that they eliminated some of these inhuman practices. Also, local governance. I said it earlier that the indirect rule system relies solely on the traditional rulers, which they have some certain degree of autonomy. Also, infrastructural development. The British colonialists, they ensured that they bring in some development in our infrastructure, such as in the terms of railways, in the terms of road and other things. Also, disadvantages of indirect rule system. You will agree with me that anything that has the good side will most likely also have the bad side. Number one is that the rulers became despotic. They became autocratic because they held a powerful and significant position. So it made some of the rulers to be what? To be authoritarian in their approach. Also, another key disadvantage is the exclusion of educated elites. Those that were educated as at that time were excluded. Maybe the colonialists, they thought of it that the educated elites in Nigeria might give them some challenges. They might go against some of their policies. That was why they excluded them, which was not too good. Also, puppets to the British. As time goes on, the traditional rulers, they became stooge or puppets to the British. Our traditional rulers that we hold with high esteem, that are supposed to be in charge with day-to-day affairs of the region, now become a puppet, whereby they have to say yes ma'am, yes sir to the colonialists. Whatever the colonialists ask them to do, that is what they end up doing, which is not too good. 4, crisis, conflict, and distraught. This indirect rule system in some region led to violence. Very good example is the Accra women riot that has to do with taxation. When there was too many taxation, the Accra women, they had to come out to protest against it. So the indirect rule system led to distraught, it led to conflict and crisis. Then also imposition of unqualified chiefs. There are some chiefs that are not qualified, but because the colonialists need the local authority to work for them, they had to start appointing unqualified chiefs. For example, in the East, where warrant chiefs were in charge of collection of tax, which is not supposed to be so. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of indirect rule system. Now, practice question. I like the reason behind the indirect rule system implemented by the British colonial administration in Nigeria. We have said it earlier that one, cheap nature of indirect school system. Indirect school system is very cheap. It doesn't cost the British colonialists a lot of money. Also, language difficulty. As I said earlier, Nigeria is an heterogeneous society that has diverse ethnic groups with different languages. So in order to be able to communicate effectively with the people, the British colonialists had to make use of the traditional and native authority. Also, success in other countries. I said it earlier that indirect school system succeeded in some countries like Ghana, among others. And lastly, participation by local authority. The British, they ensured that they carry the local authorities along in order to reduce the people from going against them.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
Thank you for listening to us. For any questions, observations, or feedback, kindly reach us on our social media platform displayed on the screen. Thank you once again.
Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.